Hello, hello, ZKGM everybody, and welcome to another episode of Union Hallcast. I'm Stephen, your CMO, and with me today I have two wonderful guests. We have Azim, co-founder from Miden, and then Mike, who's coming us from RedStone. Um, let's start off. Azim, would you kind of introduce yourself and let everybody know what you do and about Miden?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having us. I'm Azim. I'm one of the co-founders at Miden. We are a new ZK blockchain that just next generation blockchain focused on zero knowledge proofs. Unlike traditional blockchains where transactions everything is public, we're focusing on privacy, compliance, scalability. We recently announced a round with A16Z, 1KX, and Hack earlier this year, and looking to go to mainnet either later this year or early next year. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I'm just sick from the weather changing, but I didn't want to cancel on this. We've been scheduling this for a while, and so wanted to be able to push through.
Well, we appreciate that. We'll make Mike do more of the talking. We'll Mike do more of the talking so you can rest. Mike, why don't you introduce yourself and what you're doing with Redstone?
Yeah, nice to meet you, everybody. And thank you, Stephen, for having us. I am Mike Massari. I am strategic advisor at RedStone. RedStone is an oracle. It's the fastest growing oracle in the market. We provide price data across hundreds of different tokens and clients and multiple chains. We just launched a new product, which is called RedStone Atom, which is all about liquidation and oracle extractable value, as we call it. I also am a VP of partnership in a company that's called Dion, and we do PayFi.
Okay, fantastic. All right, well let's get started then. Azim, so you said Miden, is how I pronounce it, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so Miden, it calls itself the Edge blockchain. Can you go into that what that means for maybe like something that's a little bit less technical?
Yeah, totally. So for the most part, right now, when blockchain computations are done, you send them to the network to execute and re-execute during the entirety of the computations. What we're talking about is that it's similar to just edge computing in Web 2, where you are able to do computation on local devices, whether mobile phone or computer, that generates a ZK proof, and that ZK proof gets sent to the network that then gets proven. And so it's how you're able to keep certain sensitive data local, and you're also able to the ZK proof that you generate is a much smaller one than having to send the entirety of a computation to the network. So it also allows for things to move more scalably. And so we just, computation at the edge, and so the edge blockchain is the idea for this.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, it's actually similar to how kind of Union does it. Some people get a little confused, think that Union's CK implementation has to do with privacy. In Union's case, it does not, but it's all about scalability. So yeah, not having to do this huge computation. Instead, you do it, just
Hmm.
thinking it's much more efficient. So.
Yes, exactly. At least we think so. There are others who may not, but it's the way we think that it makes sense.
I mean, we're pretty ZK pilled, so let's hope that's the case. Um, Mike, similarly, Redstone calls itself the modular blockchain oracle. Um, how what makes it modular, and how is Redstone, the like classic implementation different than similar protocols?
Yeah, this is an excellent question that I love to answer. So I have quite a very broad experience with Oracle, and honestly, before going into Redstone and understanding exactly how it works behind the scene, I was surprised by the same exact thing. But the beauty about Redstone is that all of the different parts of the Oracle, they are like literally composable in a modular way. So the data sources, the consensus on the price, so the computation part of it, and the relayer part of it, so the one that actually do sends the price on chain, it's all composable. That really gives us the possibility to be very, very quick in integrating and deploying to the different chain. One of the reason why RedStone is able to deploy scalably on over 115, I think, is now chains, is exactly the modularity. We don't have to effectively rebuild the stack for every chain, but we have our incredibly reliable computation, incredibly reliable secure stack behind it, and then the different REST and layers effectively to send these messages to the different chains.
Fantastic. So is there a limit, some kind of upper limit on how many, chains or even like assets that Redstone will be able to support?
Well, obviously there is a limit when it comes to single pieces of infrastructure, but the modularity of it is actually what makes it scalable in a very horizontal way. So theoretically, there is no limit as long as we keep like scaling this horizontally. For each, for example, relayer, there is a limit, but obviously we don't have just the one. We just have multiple that work with each other in tandem to provide the scalability that Redstone can provide.
Oh, okay, that's fantastic. Yeah, we've tied back to Union here. Union's found something similar. Just the architecture is set up so that there's not like, some interrupt protocols are limited to like maybe like 100 chains, like a little bit more than that before they're really just kind of capped out. Union with current technology is thousands. With future ones way more so. So building that in from the get-go in such a kind of chaotic, fragmented world is as Web3 is smart.
Yeah, and I mean, every single piece of infrastructure has got its limits, right? So I think that the key and what we've been seeing a lot more and more, especially in the past years with blockchain, with a lot of people talking about mass adoption, a lot of people talking about the influx of, let's call it, new crypto people within the industry as users, really needs to focus around scalability, as correctly you guys do and we do as well, but also around user experience, right? So to me, these are really the two key to get crypto where we all want it to be, and we all wanted it to be for the longest time now.
Yeah, I'd love to dig on that, actually, for both of you. So how is, when it comes to user experience, like how is like Miden making it so the user experience will be pleasant for more people as more people get into crypto?
To be honest with you, at the moment, actually, like it's very much like eating glass trying to build on Miden. Things are done on WebAssembly. We're working towards a Rust compiler that will make things way easier. One of the big things for us has been like, other of the ZK chains that we've looked at, like they have their own languages. And part of us is like, as much as I very much respect, like, let's say, like what Aztec has done, even as someone non-technical, for me, it seems like it would be more difficult to get mass adoption of a new language than it might even be to get mass adoption of a new blockchain. And so for us, it's been very important to look at it from the perspective of how do we get more builders on board. And part of that is, Rust is such a popular language. And so being able to have builders from all over being able to build on Rust has been one of the things from that perspective that we feel is extremely important. And so that's one of the things. Other has just been, let's say like when it comes to design, the designer that we brought on board that's working with us, working on making our faucet better, on the multi-sig that we're building out, any of the things that we need to ourselves. I wanted someone who wasn't from Web3. There are so many terrible things about UI UX that we have just sort of accepted, that just sort of come with things when you're someone in Web3. And what's been really nice having the designer who doesn't have the same Web3 background, and he was worried originally. And I was like, look, man, sit on crypto Twitter for 2 or 3 months. All of this stuff that sounds like garbage mostly is garbage, and what you need to learn, you'll be able to learn inside of 2 or 3 months. And what's been nice is that he asks these really simple questions that actually make total sense, that in crypto we've just sort of come to accept. Well, like, why would you want it better? I don't know. The terrible experience of MetaMask taught us that anything is better. So that's been the things. And then also just with what we're doing with, we've called it our pioneer program for builders that are building on top of us. So like sort of like the mega mafia of sorts, but but has just been like really working with them on understanding if we want to actually get mass adoption, how do we make things that one are necessary? Like we're not focusing on just like meme coins and like being able to get 1,000x. And I think like those things are cool. You know, Kanye launched his coin yesterday that briefly hit 3 billion market cap. It's about thinking through what are the kinds of things that we actually want and need on our blockchain, and being that we can do this compliant privacy, a lot of it in the early stages has been having discovery calls with the folks that we think will end up being end users. And so different governments, large asset managers, market makers, liquid funds, and sort of being like, hey, if you were given the canvas to sort of build on top of something that does this, what is it that you would want? And working more closely with them on being able to do that. So we'll see how it actually goes, but there's a couple pronged approach that we've been taking to try to make sure that we're able to actually deliver on that.
No, I love that. Our designer actually has a Web 2 background as well, so as do I. And
Yeah,
it's
very
it's
cool.
very nice to remember that some of these things we deal with in Web 3 are a bit silly. It's why everybody's always, we want to make it so easy
Yeah.
that our grandmothers can get on, and
Totally.
it helps to get on that.
Yeah.
Mike.
It's interesting because I think that you, Zim, hit the nail in the head here because Web 2 did a very, very good job, I think, some years ago in getting the regular people that never use the internet, right, or never use the internet in the capacity that the internet could be used, into social media and into these like games and into using Facebook and the social platforms, to the point that now my mom uses Facebook. I'm a bit older maybe than you guys, so my grandma does use Facebook, but my mom does, and she really doesn't know what I do for a living, right? So she knows I work in tech.
Yeah.
And she knows I was coding stuff, and now I speak about stuff that is coded, and that's about it. So I think that in Web3 we're still making strides, and we're doing it more lately on getting this type of people on board, making it more accessible for them, so that people don't have to know about the different chains and slippage and token addresses and swaps and wallets and all of these kind of things that we're so used to just like talk about every day. And I've been in crypto since 2017, so for me, like, it's second nature, but for a lot of new people it's not. And having designers, especially communication people that have a web background, I think really caters to that goal. So yeah, it's very commendable that both of you guys do that.
No, absolutely. We don't need to, redesign the wheel when somebody else has
Yeah.
already redesigned it. Just take the best parts about the differences in the technology, and then get those in there. As long as we can get those in there, it's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of something that's going to be, very beneficial to users, Miden has um, this focus on privacy. I know that's through like self-custodied state control and things like that. So,
Mhm.
how's that going to work from the user side? Is that going to be all just obviously when this is all built out, is that going to be very seamless? Is it something that just happens, or how?
Yeah, looking to have it all be quite seamless, and I could speak more to the reasoning behind it than exactly how it's going to work. But
Oh, that'd
I
be
think
great.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, one of the things that I've seen, because I've been in crypto since like 2012, 2013, like writing about it. And what I've seen is that for the most part, we've seen a lot more Western adoption of crypto than we have in other parts of the world. And I think what's been interesting about that is that we have a lot of people who already have privacy in their financial lives that are using crypto as this unique, fun thing that they can sort of use on top of the fact that they have bank accounts and credit cards and access to,
Mhm.
you know, lending, credit and lending markets, all these things. And it's this unique toy that they have fun with. And so to date, oh, if you're buying your NFTs and you're doing yield farming or something on top, and you can be pseudo anon or anon, it doesn't really matter to most people, or they don't think about the potential dystopias that can come from if the entirety of our financial lives were built on public ledgers. And it's because that they haven't had to, because you still use your credit card when you go to Chipotle, or if you order something on OnlyFans, or on the company level, like having every single person's salary be easily checked and your entire net worth there because you just sent someone $5 instead of a Venmo transaction. And so for us, we've thought a lot on this. My co-founder Bobbin used to be doing early ZK work at the EF. He went on to lead the tech team, or the ZK side of the tech team, at Libra and DM for Facebook for years. And then after that went on to become a co-founder at Polygon, and in there had been asked to be the co-founder on some of the one of the very successful projects that came out of Facebook from the crypto side. And he turned it down because he thought that real mainstream adoption of crypto is going to absolutely require there to be ZK. And now that we're getting to this place that we're trying to get more and more people on chain, we're seeing more of the idea of privacy mattering, where privacy shields and private stable coins, things like that, are coming about. But from a conceptual level, I just can't imagine that it's good that the entirety of our financial lives in the future would be on ledgers where everything is public on a personal level. And then on a professional level, I mean, there is no government or hedge fund or large corporation that would ever want you to be able to understand every single time they move a dollar around. I mean, like, if you sit on crypto Twitter, we all get to see every time someone wants to just completely rag on the Ethereum Foundation anytime they move some money around. Imagine if every single Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 had to deal with similar things, where they had to put up press releases every single time they were moving money around to pay a supplier, right? So for us, the idea, just in general, of the need for privacy is just that there's no way for this to really go mainstream without it.
Yeah, that makes perfect. I mean, it's the same thing as you see like governments will get ragged on for this one line item that
Yeah,
may sound silly in a full context of a full program. It might make perfect sense, but you pull out this one thing and they get ragged on. It's like, it may also be wasted,
yeah,
of course, but that's not something as you said, a Western company or a person with access to credit cards will countenance. It's just not. It's a downgrade. So.
yeah. I also jokingly say that as much as people believe that the public needs privacy, I promise you that all the governments who have to pay to do the shady things they need to at times will not allow there to be everything on a public ledger. And as we move toward this world where maybe it's a little harder now, and you need Chainalysis and ZachXBT and stuff like that to do it, as AI gets better, it's going to be really easy to be able to figure out who's who in any of this stuff. There's going to be simple scripts that will be able to do it. And that's a scary idea, especially as we keep seeing. I mean, it happens more in France, but like, crypto founders constantly getting kidnapped. I actually, in the last few weeks, have had to answer multiple polls and had a document sent to me on what to do in the event that I'm kidnapped, and what are my fears on a scale of 0 to 5 of having bodily harm done to me because I'm a crypto founder.
Yeah, it's a little freaky. Something maybe a little bit less, a little less heavy. So, Mike, so you're working on Redstone Atom specifically.
Yes.
Yeah. So how is that different?
Well, that's interesting, because I think that falls very much into both the kind of user experience in a way, but also in the reliability part of what we do. And the best description that I have for that is, what Atom really does is it captures a lot of value that now protocols do not capture. So whenever there are liquidations in lending protocols, there is obviously, as you guys probably know, and for the people in the audience that don't know, there are these bots. They're like MEV bots, they're called, and they effectively race each other in a gas war. What I've been, for the past 3 months or so, been calling a knife fight, to front run each other and try to liquidate a position. The reason why they do that is because liquidating a position in these protocols is profitable, and they actually do make a profit out of it. The problem is that the user gets none of that, and none of this profit, and the protocol itself doesn't get any of this profit either. and it's just like completely captured by this bot. So with RedStone and with the great people at Fastlane, which is our partners in this, we created what we called OEV, and OEV stands for Oracle Extractable Value. So we effectively moved that problem from a gas race into like an orderly auction. And the way that it works is simple. In theory, obviously there's a lot of tech behind it, and there's a lot of security measures behind it. But these same people, instead of racing each other in a gas war, they just try to bid in this auction that we run off chain, and then we take the auction result and the price update into one single atomic transaction, hence the name, and then we put that on chain. So it's an orderly process of who gets to liquidate. And the best thing is that that value goes back to the protocol, and then the protocol obviously can reflect that back to the user in the form of a more aggressive lending strategy, but even in the form of rewards or in the form of like DAO contribution or whatever it is. So there is a lot of recapturing of this that was a problem in crypto until we came up with this, but then now it's effectively another opportunity. It really helps the user experience because obviously people will feel more secure. I do believe that in the future, as we roll this out more and more, users will demand that they invest and that they invest in lending protocols and in markets that are OEV enabled, so that they have like a better liquidation process, and they also have better proceedings.
Does this result in like a lower amount, like cheaper transactions or something like that, because the auction is got like better price discovery, anything like that? It might not, because it's just redirecting it. That's already a bonus. That's like a huge bonus and huge improvement. But does it do that as well?
It does, because if you think about it now, what happens is that you get the price information, and then there are a lot of transactions for this liquidation to happen, right? So the chain in effect gets spammed with transactions by the bots, and now instead this whole happens off chain. This whole auction that we create, it doesn't happen on chain anymore, but it happens in an off chain process. And there is one transaction on chain that includes the price update and also the liquidation information. And then obviously there is the liquidation itself. So the number of transaction is reduced, but more importantly, the protocol is faster, because you can liquidate position faster with this, and you don't have to wait for a certain amount of time or for the next block to do this. The atomic transaction makes it so in the same exact transaction you have both, and liquidation can happen more quickly, therefore more securely.
Okay, interesting. I actually want to. I think some of these topics are really interesting. I kind of want to plug into some of the kind of go to market, like how working on adoption for both of you. However, my front engineer who was working with some of the like RedStone stuff did have a question. He requires me to ask. It was just about future plans for like supported assets. Like, is that something you can speak to? Just on the Redstone side.
Which asset we're talking about?
Well, he was asking about Osmo, I think. But yeah, was there just any how do y'all plan supported assets? How do you are there plans to roll out more? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so for Atom specifically, we are rolling it out. So we started with Unichain, and then we're rolling it out on a number of chains and a number of assets. The RedStone team is quite lean, therefore you can move very, very quickly. And now we're already rolling it out. Like, we are live on BNB as well. And then we're live on a couple more, like on Berachain we just deployed, and then we have a few more in the works. I don't know how much I can talk about, but there is definitely the need, and we are rolling it out to all new RedStone assets. So that's kind of one of the beautiful things. So as soon as we get to the place where Atom is present on the chain, then the new RedStone asset will include OAV on top by default. Now we're still in the rollout phase, so obviously these things happen in a bit more of like an ad hoc manner, hence why I ask which asset. But generally speaking, in the future, in the very near future, so within like a few weeks, we are going to have it bundled with like every single RedStone asset, and this will be a default product that we just add on top of our data feeds.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Okay, we'll make sure he watches this part so he gets his answer. Yeah, let's talk about how the two of you are kind of thinking about like growth and adoption. So like Azim, for Miden, how are you? Obviously, still in the testnet phase, so it's always a part. But like, how are you going about building your community and get the word out and kind of pushing towards adoption?
Totally. So when I was at Morph prior to this, it was an EVM L2 incubated by BitGet. We'd raised money from Dragonfly had led our round. Pantera was in it, Spartan. A lot of it was actually focused on like B2C adoption. Was what are the things that we can do on the consumer side? And as much as that was an interesting premise, I think one of the biggest things that I learned from it was that I don't think that we're at the place like Mike was talking about earlier. Let's say like how do we get our grandmas on board? We're just not there from multiple standpoints. But where I do think we are is that I've constantly been having conversations with large institutions, with different governments, not in the US, but internationally, and then large enterprises who are interested in the kinds of things that blockchain can do specifically to help them make more money. I mean, some of the yields that we look at when it comes to like DeFi that we look at as not being nearly enough are the kinds of percentages that, I don't know, Bernie Madoff went to prison for. Like being able to sustainably offer someone 15% yield year on year is the kind of stuff Bernie Madoff literally had to do a Ponzi scheme to be able to achieve. And we look at 15% as like, I could put my money somewhere else. Like I could triple this. And, so when we chat with a lot of these institutions on things that they would be able to do, what I'm realizing is as much as crypto people are like, the institutions are coming or we have to bring them, the way I've been looking at it is partnering in where we're good and where they're good. So I chat with massive asset managers who tell me, trillions in asset under management. And they'll have, I don't know, 50 people on their digital assets team, and 3 of those people will be developers. Like, you're never going to be able to actually build anything. But the reality is that I, who have spent no time in TradFi and could barely outwork, a college freshman at using Excel, have no business deciding what I think that they need to build. And so they have access to the things that they know need to be built, and they also have an understanding of how they would want to distribute those things. So for us, while it's in ways a slower strategy because it's putting us in a position where before we've actually built out a big brand that you would want to sign on to, that we're looking to partner with these kinds of institutions to say, let's bring both of our expertise to the table and let's see how we can build out something for you from the tech side where you can handle, the B2B, B2C side of being able to do the distribution for this stuff. And let's find a way that is mutually beneficial for everyone involved. And we've been seeing, honestly, good returns on it for the most part. I think what's been hard about doing the straight B2C option is it forces you into having to figure out how to offer unsustainable yields to people. And those things just like they don't last. And, the timelines for those keep getting shorter as well. So we've been looking at how do you partner with the kinds of people that do really need to use this, but just offer them the expertise that we have. Because even if, I don't know, JP Morgan wanted to start hiring a bunch of amazing devs, like, where you're going to go on crypto Twitter and like look at pictures of what pickles and monkeys and figure out that like this is the best ZK dev, like it's just not going to work. And so that's one of the main approaches that we've been taking when it comes to how we're trying to figure out the adoption problem at the moment.
That makes sense. It's like you were saying earlier. It's going to some of the people who could be users, and then seeing what they specifically like need. It's always nice to have some of those off the rip that you can actually talk to, and it's also easier to go for mass adoption when you have a base from which to do it from.
Totally.
Yeah. Mike, how is RedStone thinking about that? Both for like Atom specifically, and then just RedStone overall.
It's a very interesting conversation, right? Because Oracle per se, they are a bit more kind of like a technical, like behind the scene infrastructure piece, right? And
Yeah.
it's really not something that you see front and center, right? And like you can see in like a DApp or something that people use directly. Oracle is more of something that people use indirectly and sits behind. So for us, a lot of the user experience revolves around the developer, so revolves around the consumer of the data feeds. But also there is a huge component to the user when it comes to information. It's oracles, for example, are one of those things that help user distinguish between reputable protocols that actually have reputable price sources and not. Our play is a lot around reliability. So RedStone, for example, is the only oracle that never had a mispricing event since our inception, and the result is because of the way that we do pricing, because of the way that we maintain the price feeds. And that's very important, because the moment that you have, even like if you're like super famous and super well known and respected, the moment that you have a slip like that, then all of a sudden like the credibility of all your system falls, right? And if it happened once, it can happen 10 times unless you really change something. So for us, the information about why an oracle is important and why a reliable and secure oracle is important is first and foremost the most important thing. For Atom specifically, we are a bit more in the face of the user, right? We're a bit closer to what the user expect, because like even retail investors, they do understand when they get liquidated, right? So they understand the liquidation process, and it is something that can happen. But they also do understand that if part of that liquidation, let's call it bonus, goes back to the protocol, then they can get liquidated like in fewer cases, right? Because the protocol can have like a more aggressive lending strategy, so it makes it safer for them and it makes it less likely that they get liquidated, obviously within boundaries. I think it's very important that people familiarize themselves with these terms and with our technology. It's obviously down to us to communicate as much as possible and as clearly as possible what are the perks, for example, of having an oracle, what are the perks of having OEV on a feed. But it's also, as always, it is the responsibility of the investors to do their homework and to make sure that they invest in protocols they think are reputable and they did the correct research. We just obviously provide some information in terms of transparency and documentation for our RedStone feed that helps them make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense that the developers would be more of the focus. I mean, that is those are the people that implement this, in different apps that implement an Oracle. It's how, I think I'd heard about RedStone before, but it'd been a little bit, and then, suddenly on the Union app, we needed some Oracles, and then RedStone's name popped back up. Always kind of good to focus on the experience for those people. And I do agree that as soon as a protocol kind of slips, people still make jokes about Solana downtime. I don't know the last time they actually had downtime, but they had it like twice in a year, and people still think it's unreliable sometimes. And it's like, well, no, but that is what happens when it happens enough that it kind of enters the public consciousness.
Yeah, it's a matter of perception, right? It's one of those things that people don't really know the details of what's going on behind the scenes, so that they see, oh, this thing is down, so it doesn't work, right? And
Yeah.
they don't and because they shouldn't stop and think why this happens or how often this happens or what are the implication. Like a lot of it is just the perception that the user has. Like, for example, it happened with, like, in Web 2 as well, with like Cloudflare being down, right? Or with the CrowdStrike problem, like that some time ago, just like paralyzed like the Microsoft infrastructure.
That was huge, yeah.
Yeah, that was huge. And like everyone knows about those things because those are the things that make the news, right? And if, Cloudflare works 99.999% of the time, people are not going to talk about it. The 0.001% of the time that it doesn't, it's really when, the public opinion shifts.
Very true. Azim, so how is Miden doing with the kind of like dev side too?
Honestly, the entirety of our team are devs right now, and so I'd say we're working more on the non-technical side at the moment, trying to figure stuff out. It's actually been really cool. Like people on the dev side love working on the stuff that we are. I push the team a lot to make sure we don't become one of those like research teams and more so like focused on actually pushing stuff out there. They're all so smart that they're very much so perfectionists in doing a lot of it. Our developer experience is something that we're absolutely working at. I think once this Rust compiler is done, we're going to be in a much better place to actually do some of the stuff. And we've been chatting with builders who have honestly been super excited. I think it's more so about the potential that Miden offers them than like, dealing with how it's quite difficult at the moment, at least, to build on Miden. But I think that it's put us in a position where we do have the people who are actual more so evangelists. And because there's no, like, you can't really just copy pasta the way people do with Uniswap, V2 forks, the way they do with so many of the EVM chains to try to get grants. You have to actually like custom build everything out. And so from that standpoint, I think it's been more difficult in certain ways, but what I have appreciated is the people that are on board with us are the people that I think are really going to actually ride with us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of your like core team, how's that kind of changed since the big fundraise? Like, have you just brought a lot of people on, or has it just been, we did that, done, now we can focus again?
Yeah, I'll be really honest with you. I'm already looking at the next fundraise. When you're a non-EVM chain, I think like very honestly, you need at the minimum 20 or 25 million dollars just to get all of the right infrastructure in place. I think that like that can easily inflate closer to 50, to be honest, if I really sat down and started putting everything together. Especially when you don't already have massive distribution and people are willing to sort of bend over backwards for you. So like you should estimate somewhere between 25 and 50 million to really get the blockchain running. And so we did a great fundraise, but it's so interesting that like I constantly have conversations where I'm like, yeah, I don't feel financially secure in ways. So we're looking at stuff for the Series A, looking at treasury company stuff as well. Like, I guess that's a little bit of alpha. No one's done a treasury company without a public token, but I think that there's interesting reasons why you might want to do it. So exploring that, we'll see if it works. It's not easy. I'd explored SPACs a little bit too, and I was told I needed at least 2 million to spend on lawyers alone, and I was like, okay, that one's a little bit out of my league at the moment. So we'll step away from that. But we've actually been slow to hire immediately like that. I think what generally happens is because I've been part of multiple venture funded companies, raised a bunch of venture, and then know a bunch of founders. And what happens is you announce a fundraising round, and then recruiters come to you, agencies come to you, like literally everybody comes trying to take some of your money. Event sponsorship people come to you. Everyone's like, just give us money. And what ends up happening is that it's not always guaranteed that you'll be able to raise your next round of funding. And I think that people in crypto tend to operate in ways that they raised a bunch of money at a wild valuation and they'll be able to raise again. And I just don't believe in operating that way. And so we're much more conservative on it. We've been keeping the team much more lean, where I'm okay with hiring someone only after we feel the pain of what it's like for someone, like where we need to hire that someone. So I'd been leading all of our communications to date when it came to like the fundraising announcement, all of the media we've gotten, all the podcasts we've gotten, because I have a ton of media background. But then I realized like, okay, this will not be scalable. I was doing a bunch of our copywriting, our editing, and we brought on a head of comms that will be announcing who started on Monday this past week. And it was something where I had a really deep understanding of why I'm hiring this person, what I need them to do, what success looks like, how to put together KPIs, what will deliverables be for this person, and how do I put them in a position to actually succeed? Whereas like people will be like, oh, we raised a bunch of money, let's immediately put out, we need a head of community, a head of marketing, a head of this, a head of that. And if you don't really understand what it is those people are supposed to be doing, it's really easy when 8 months goes by and the next round isn't as easy to raise that you start going, time to do that 40% team cut that CoinDesk is going to write about. And we've been wanting to avoid that.
Yeah, I've in my past life, even before Web3, been worked at both startups and regular companies that made that same mistake. I mean, I think Union, I may have hired like 2 people
Okay.
since the last raise,
Mhm.
and brought the intern on full time, so two
Mhm.
two and a half, sort of whatever that
Yeah.
that equals out to. And it's like that's right until it hurts. Like
Yeah.
don't like get so crazy with it. Not the least because there are amazing people in this industry that you can be like, I need a lot of help right now with a specific thing.
Totally.
Those people are
Totally.
available.
Totally. So that's sort of been our approach, has been conservative. No sponsorships of events. I don't believe in any of that. There's a lot of things like that where it's against the grain, but it just makes more logical sense.
Yeah, I come back and forth on that. Sometimes it's worth it.
It,
Often it's not. Often you
I,
realize you're paying to hang out with the same people again and again, and
yes,
it's not really getting you distribution. There are definitely ones that
totally,
that,
totally,
that make sense,
totally.
but
But it's way more specific than like X conference comes around, and especially the numbers. It'll be like, minimum 25K, 50K. Like, what am I? I'm not paying you 50K to speak in front of a crowd of people that I already know. That makes no sense.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I suppose
Mike,
this goes.
Michelle.
I suppose this goes back. Like I actually do find the point very interesting, Azim, because also the way I think that people invested into crypto in the past few years changed drastically, right? So
Yeah.
the way that investor behave, like and before, like we saw that time, I think it was around like 2020, 2021, where like every project was able to raise like $10 million with a
Hmm.
piece of paper, right?
Hmm.
And now I think there is a much more due diligence that happens from the VC side. There is much more, I think, awareness, I will call it, of the different project and the pitfalls of raising and sending money and giving money to project that do not meet a certain bar. So yeah, I completely agree, and I like the more conservative approach. I do agree with Stephen as well. Like sometimes I do like to
Hmm.
speak at an event, and I think that sponsorships are helpful, especially when there isn't like a specific message. But yeah, I like to have conversations like the one that we're having now, right? When we're talking about different aspects of the industry as opposed to just being a giant human billboard for a project.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, the event sponsorship stuff, I go back and forth. I found some of the smaller stuff, like where you're like paying, I don't know, 5 to 7.5K for a very hyper specific group of people, has been, especially for what we're doing, like this like super intense ZK, like math lover thing where it's like, I don't know, ETH Denver won't make sense for us. But there's been specific stuff that, you know, ZK hack or things like that I've looked at, and it's like, okay, like this could make sense. So it does depend. But in general, I've tended, especially now that the fundraise announcement had happened, like every single conference reaches out to me. And I'm like, but why would I give you this? I would much rather just be like, hey, let's build a simple app on top of Miden, uh, and I will give this money away. Where it's like $20,000, and I'm like, I'm going to do, I don't know, a treasure hunt. I'm going to give $10,000 to the first person who like you can create media virality in different ways for the amount of money that goes for.
Oh, absolutely. And we didn't have to pay for it other than in manpower, but we have the union dashboard.
Mhm.
Um, so much value from that, in the kind of like marketing, virality kind of realm. And we could have instead, and if we had to pay for that would have been worth it as well, because it's something that lives on online, connects to on chain, does all this stuff, and it's really really useful, and it keeps giving and giving and giving. Whereas events a flash in the pan. I always approach them like you should be skeptical,
Yeah.
and then if the person talking to or the opportunity is really, 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 really good, then it's like, okay, it can get to a yes, but it should default no, so that you can, keep running for another day.
Yeah, I like that. I actually very
Yeah,
much like that.
But we're coming up on time. I would love to give both of you the chance to give a final thought, or if you just want to give somebody a shout out, or let people know where to find you online to follow and learn more.
I'm a ZeemK_ on Twitter. My DMs are open. If anything that I said sounded interesting, please reach out. Always happy to chat with anyone.
Yeah, and likewise. I think this was a great conversation. And again, Stephen, thank you so much for having us. And Azim,
Yes.
very, very nice talking to you. My Twitter is at mkmasari, and also my DMs are open. So feel free to ask questions or just give me thoughts. If something sounded interesting or if something sounded like completely crazy, I do want to know, and I want to have that conversation. It's always nice to get the different point of views. And yeah, I hope that we can chat more in this stage or in other stages
Totally.
in the future.
Hopefully on paid stages.
Yes, exactly. We should all sponsor an event and then do exactly this conversation on a panel.
Live.
There we go.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I'm happy that despite being sick, I was like, no, I'm not going to cancel on this. I'm happy I came. This was a fun chat.
I agree. I'm glad to have both of you here. I think it was really interesting. So thank you for coming. Thank you for everybody who tuned in as well. Just to let everybody, our regular viewers know, there will not be a Union Hall cast next week, but we'll return the week after. So cheers.
Awesome. Take care, everyone.
Take care.